Welcome to Newspaper Review on Niger Live Television. Newspaper Review is your daily press review as we will be checking out headlines making the papers. My name is Barbie Mkparu and I'm joined by
Glad Yakie.
Alright, so real quick, let's go through the papers. On the Nation newspaper, we have Yakie, more knocks for Makinde. That's the Sheyi Makinde, the governor of Oyo State. Quite a story available there, Glad.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, especially considering the title, that's Yakie movement, because for a lot of Nigerians, I think it will spark the memories of 1964-65, where fractions of Obafemi Awolowo and Samuel Akintoye, where their supporters were actually drenching each other
with petrol
and setting them on fire. So that's interesting, seeing Makinde being tagged, linked with something
like that.
We have to read through the papers to find out more details. And I don't know if maybe there's accusations that he's maybe killing people. I don't know, but it will be an interesting read.
A very interesting read. Do well to read through details of that story. Let's go over to the next headline here. We see Peter Obi Kwankwaso weighing offer from NDC. That's the party led by the former governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Henry Seriake Dixon.
Well, I don't know, because for the ADC at this point, there's a lot of drama.
Very
true. Of course,
true.
almost all parties in Nigeria are in one form of drama or the other. So for Obi and Kwankwaso, they are weighing potentially going to the NDC, and the NDC, of course, maybe you want to say, since it's a new party and has more force here in Bayelsa State, so I'm not sure what national grounds it really has, but for Obi and Kwankwaso moving there, of course, there are people with so much potential, and
of course,
I can't tell you enough about their magnitude when it comes to Nigerian politics. So they will definitely be going to the party with their followers, of course. So it will be an interesting development, especially for the NDC.
Very true, very true. I mean, considering the fact that in the ADC, the former vice president of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, is not looking like he wants to back down that presidential ticket for any person. Yeah,
I was always talking about the fact that for the ADC, it will be difficult for them to really put up that united front, because they have three big candidates.
Exactly.
So who would be stepping down for the other? Who would be the vice to the other? That was always going to be an issue. And then you look at the issue that's going on with regards to the party's leadership. That's also been begging the question as well.
A whole lot going on in that political party. But do well to read through details of this story as it is available in the paper. Press statement by the Kwara State government on the trial of Senator Saraki and others in respect of the Offa robbery incident. Quite a story there.
the Offa robbery, that's an interesting story, I must tell you, because for Saraki, he's been accused for staging, or should I say helping out the operation that led to the death of over 30 people were reportedly killed in the Offa robbery that took place on April 5, 2018. So 8 years ago, that's an operation that took place.
And
so Saraki now is almost like he's a witch hunt, because he's having that political ambition, should I say, he feels like he's politically targeted by the governor of Kwara State. That is Abdul Rahman Abdul Aziz. So he feels targeted. So for Saraki, he's been accused of supporting the robberies, and that's a big accusation.
That's quite heavy.
Yeah, he's denying that he was a part of it, of course. But it's going to be interesting seeing what the court finally votes, because the matter is currently in court. So
it's another thing. It's another thing with politics. Something would happen years back, and then the moment you have a political ambition, it begins to come up. Yeah,
it does.
Do well to read through details of that story as available in the paper. Let's quickly head on to the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard, we see Vasu, Konwa, Napian to IG. You can't scrap irrelevant courses in varsities. It's a whole lot going on in Nigerian universities. Do well to read through details of that story. Over to the Punch newspaper, we see Ibadan meeting PDP, ADC, blocks reject joint presidential ticket. Was there a plan for the PDP and ADC to have a joint presidential ticket?
I think it would be with regards to the individual parties, and I doubt it would be maybe united fronts from the PDP and ADC together. But of course, you have to read to get more insight on it.
Quite interesting stories everywhere. I mean, I don't think it sounds good that they want to push for a joint presidential ticket.
But in a way, there's that form of partnership or cooperation between the ADC and the PDP. Because you look at the force of APC, it will be difficult for one party to just get a victory over the APC at this point. No, but
why didn't they all just either become PDP members or APC members or ADC members?
There's that link between them as well. So, in as much as they are not going to be formed, I doubt they will really be forming a united front. But there's that collaboration to at least put up a better performance against the APC.
All right. Anything to ensure that they gain relevance, you know, after the 2027 general elections? This is a very interesting time in Nigeria. A whole lot of politicians and Nigerians are doing a lot. We don't know if it is for selfish interest or for the general good of Nigerians. Whatever it is, do well to keep yourself informed. Do well to read details of that story. We have a sad story here, quite tragic, that another UK-based Nigerian is found dead at workplace.
Really sad. You know, you look at the situation for a lot of Nigerians moving out of the country with the ambition of going to make it, and then you go there and then the reality is a lot different, because a lot of them have complained about the fact that life there overseas is kind of boring, because you have to work sometimes 2-3 jobs, long hours, in order to make ends meet. And for them, you know, at the end of the day, like in this situation, which was pretty sad, the person lost his or her life, which is unfortunate. So really sad story coming out from the UK about the Nigerian.
May he so rest in peace. All right, moving on to the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, we have banks grapple with asset quality and validation tests after 4.65 trillion capital. That's quite a story in the world of business, of course. Do well to read through details of that story. We have another one here. Cracks huddles in united opposition hand APC strategic edge ahead of 2027. You know, just as we had initially said, every political party and high-figured politician are using this time to really strategize to ensure that they remain relevant. I feel for Nigerian politicians, it's more of remaining relevant.
Of course, you want to remain relevant in order for you to really, should I say, further your political career.
Ambition,
you know, for 2027, just around the corner, parties, there's going to be a lot of, I would expect a lot of defections. I would expect a lot of alliances being formed as well ahead of the election. So, of course, there's going to be lots more strategic moves before the 2027 elections.
Do well to read through details of that story. We have here, Sirap NGE sue NBC over threats to sanction broadcasters. It's our sector. Do well to read through details of that story as it is available. Over to the Nigeria Tribune. More senators under pressure to defect. Just as Glad said, a whole lot of defections and alliances should be expected, you know, in the coming days. All in preparation for the 2027 general elections. Read details of that story. Opposition Operation Yakie, PDP APC exchange words. I don't know why I don't like the fact that this Operation Yakie is coming up.
I think it has to do with a comment by Makinde with regards to the operation with that Yakie movement, you know. But of course, you have to read details. These are fake stories, so reading details would really
keep you informed. Yeah, true. All right, so over to the Daily Monitor. Dangote Refinery to employ 95,000 skilled workers for expansion to 1.4 million
barrels per day.
BPD.
Yeah, that's an incredible number. 995,000
95,000
workers. That's incredible. Just imagine if maybe there are 100 companies like Dangote's and company.
in
Saying
Nigeria.
we're giving 950,000 workforce, and then you get like 9.5 if you have that kind of. That's why for the American government now, they don't have to do too much because they have private individuals still stepping up. For Dangote, of course, is one of the leading industrialists we have in Nigeria. And of course, when you look at the number, 1.4 million barrels per day is incredible to even wrap your head around it. But I really do hope the ultimate situation is at least it should ease the hardship for Nigerians, at least with regards to the oil prices. We should really start seeing the effect of having a refinery, because you can't have a refinery when Nigeria already did not have a working refinery. Fuel was actually bought for a cheaper price.
For a cheaper price,
right now,
it
you
is
have
now.
a refinery that's working, producing 1.4 million barrels per day, and then the oil price is price of petrol is on the rise. It's really not good enough. I know you talk about the Iran situation, but Nigeria is still an oil producer. I've always talked about the fact that it should be an opportunity for Nigeria to even enrich itself and not to even suffer from it ultimately.
Considering it's blessed with natural resources. Oh yeah. So quite a story. Do well to read through its details. Another story here. APC, another headline rather. APC PDP in verbal war over Makinde's operation with a remark. A whole lot.
It's been a saga.
Do well to keep yourself updated. All right, moving on to this day newspaper. Obasanjo, a government that can't secure its people shouldn't exist. Well, that's a statement from the former president of Nigeria.
And I want to agree with him. One of the primary responsibilities of a government is to protect the lives and properties of its citizens.
Very true.
If you cannot do that, it failed in your basic responsibility as a government, and it should not exist. In maybe countries that are really working, the government would actually be, should I say, they have unfavorable reviews by the people at this point, and such a government should not even be able to win elections. But unfortunately, as things stand, nobody would really be facing any kind of repercussion or punishment for the atrocities that have been carried out on Nigerians. And I really do believe this government will eventually win the elections for 2027. So really unfortunate, but I will have to agree with Olusegun Obasanjo on that. A government that cannot secure its people is a failed government.
It shouldn't exist. Quite a story, right? In as much as the president has been reassuring Nigerians of his commitment to security and all of that, we still are not seeing these changes. It's not getting better. That's a very tough thing to wrap our head around, And then there's also statements from the president where he mentioned that they want to scare me. He's been making some comments. So we're now trying to understand if this whole terrorism attacks, is it planned by some persons who wants the president off the seat, who wants to frustrate the president's efforts, or is it that the government itself is failing to secure the lives and properties of its people?
That has always been a theory by some Nigerians that some people are always trying to sabotage the government. Like we saw that in Goodluck Jonathan's era, where they said the Boko Haram target operations were being led or sponsored by various politicians to jeopardize the government.
Jonathan's government.
But at the end of the day, irrespective of who is sponsoring what, you have to be able to put an end to these insurgents as well. But what we've been seeing in Tinubu's government, I was tempted to say regime, is that the operations are becoming more brazen by these terrorists. They are now even attacking military bases and all that. So it's been a terrible situation for Nigerians, and there has to be a lot done by the government, irrespective of who is starting these insurgents. They have to at least crack down on it.
Please, to be very honest, they are now taking the attacks to military zones. They don't care if you have weapons. They don't care what you have. They are going there to also attack soldiers. The general was killed. Do well to keep yourself informed as you read through details of that story. Let's go on to the Leadership newspaper. On the Leadership newspaper, aviation fuel crisis threatens 2026 Hajj airlift as stakeholders warn. It's been a whole lot going on. The increment in in jet fuel prices, you know.
Yeah, and the Hajj now. For the Hajj, you know, I've always had a little bit of a controversial take on it, you know, because the Hajj, of course, is a movement in which Muslims are, should I say, supported and taken to pilgrimages in Mecca. And it's cost Nigeria a lot of money is being budgeted for the Hajj. And of course, with the fuel hike and all that, you know, it's going to be even more expensive right now, you know, but I don't know if it's a really good use of money, but people should still be allowed to at least endeavor in their religious and
exactly, yeah.
I've always been questioning this Hajj movement. There's a little bit with regards to Christians also going to Jerusalem, but I don't think it's as, should I say, significant as the Hajj movement. So there's a little bit of a controversial take on it, you know, but with regards to the fuel hike, that's the face of the pilgrims.
So a whole lot going on in the papers. To the Blueprint newspaper, let's check out the Blueprint. NDLEA seizes Captagon, suspects excretes 45 cocaine pellets in Kwara. So with everything that's going on, we're still having drug smuggling happening.
And Kwara always one way or the other
fits itself into
when it
such
comes
news.
To killings. Now you're talking about the other of robbery, and then there's just too many negative stories coming from Kwara State, and I don't know what's really going on in Kwara State. But with regards to cocaine, of course, it's not just synonymous to Kwara State, but you have to give the NDLEA credit at least. Drugs have been causing a lot of damage to Nigerian youths. So I always do celebrate when there's a little bit of a drug seizure or the other, because especially here in Bayelsa, it's almost an epidemic. You know, you see a lot of young individuals. They've been now. I think even cocaine is now like one of the mild drugs. They have worse drugs. There's methamphetamine, what they commonly call ice. So a lot of drugs have actually devastated Nigerian youth. So interesting developments, at least for the NDA, seizing some drugs as well there in Kwara State again.
All right. Thank you very much for that very interesting review. Let's go on to the Daily Sun newspaper. Okay, 2027, NDC offers Obi Kwankwaso joint ticket. So we had analyzed that story before. Too well to read through its details. I mean, NDC is offering, we've not really accepted yet. But
I think it will be an interesting development for the candidates as well, because if they stay at the ADC, I doubt Atiku Abubakar would allow let them. For the ADC, I feel like their best two candidates would be Obi and Kwankwaso. I don't know which order. I don't know who will be coming as president. I don't know who will be stepping down to be the vice. But if they can put that, if they can
for NDC,
I'm talking about the two candidates now, because they are currently still at the ADC. So if they are to move to the NDC, it will be a good one for them, because now they don't have to contend with Atiku, and there's also Amaechi as well still in the picture. So for ADC, their best two candidates are Obi and Kwankwaso. So if they now move to the NDC, I think they will really have a lot of
ground, and they are not just moving alone; they're moving with their supporters.
Yeah, of course.
The obedience are there. So a whole lot. Keep yourself informed with the papers. Let's go on to the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust, we see Nigerians face rising threats in South Africa as federal government to act. Are we having something like a xenophobia?
That's the return of xenophobia, because for South Africans, I really don't know what to say at this point, because things like this should not be happening. There was the attacks not just on Nigerians, it's also on, I think there was a case of a Ghanaian being attacked, and then there was I think the Ghanaian government offered to take responsibility for the individual that was attacked. So they go to maybe the shops or businesses being owned by these expats, and then they go there and they kill these foreigners, and it's really not good. Not necessarily kill, but they go there, attack and loot items from their shops, which isn't good enough. The South Africans, they are complaining about these foreigners taking their jobs, but you're going to someone's business. This is someone that's creating jobs and value to the society. And
value, thank you.
I do have a South African friend, and so luckily she's one that has a different understanding, and she did admit that the average South African has this lazy mindset where they are not really ready to do the work.
And then when someone else comes
they go out and they feel like the foreigners are the ones that are just taking their jobs, and it's a really dangerous mindset to have. But at the end of the day, I always keep saying, irrespective of the fact that you want to travel and there's no issues about traveling, you should always travel to where you'll be welcome. For South Africa, they've always been showing that they really don't want citizens in their foreigners in their country. So you have to look, irrespective. I'm not saying you should not migrate. If you want to go out of the country, go to an area that has at least
welcome reception, exactly. So you don't get abused or maybe even lose your life in the process.
Because safety is the most important thing at the end of the day.
Very much important. I mean, you can come to Yanagwa, it's safe.
There's not many economic opportunities, unfortunately.
Yeah, but so do well to read the details of that story as it is available in the paper. Let's move on to the New Telegraph, shall we?
Yeah.
Alleged coup. Accused officers to be arraigned take play.
Wow.
May 8th. That's the investigation.
Some really serious claims. I was really tempted about that story the last time it was being analyzed on the paper because with regards to the coup, I'm not going to talk about my stance, but
you're not going to talk about your stance.
A lot has been going on with regards to Nigerian politics and government, and it's almost like you have a computer system that has virus. You have to reboot it, and I don't want to come out. I don't.
Now planning a coup.
When you have, it could be, but I feel like democracy is now a shame. What we are practicing in Nigeria isn't democracy. If you want to come out with tyranny, you have to come out straight, but you shouldn't be doing it on the guise of democracy. So I don't want to say we are really practicing democracy. And when you look at democracy in Nigeria, it's actually flawed. You cannot necessarily practice democracy. There's going to be so many issues that you face. Of course, you look at the fact that Nigeria, I think I have to reference GSMA when he was talking about the problems of democracy in a plural society. That's a society that's multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious. There's always going to be that crack, that issues where people would vote not necessarily because they feel like this is a good candidate, but because maybe I have this religious or ethnic affiliation to him.
Yes.
That's one issue we'll always be facing. And then you look at the average Nigerian mindset. The mindset of the average Nigerian is actually poor. Nigerians are largely uneducated, and there's the talk. Would you want maybe illiterates to tell you the direction if you're a captain and you're steering a ship? Would you want illiterates to be steering you in the or you want people that have the expertise to really decide what should happen?
Sadly, some Nigerians, let me not generalize it, they don't mind having that illiterate steer the ship, especially if the illiterate is maybe they practice same religion, or the person is from their tribe, or
and that's actually flawed. I think it was Jesus who used that description. You cannot have two blind men leading another. You need someone that is wise enough to lead the other. When, like in the UK, if you look at the US, there are measures put in place. So I don't know, for the past 10, 20 maybe you want to even say 90% of American presidents, you have to be either a lawyer or you have to be a business magnate, someone that has an expertise in business. Nobody if you look at the last 20 to 30 presidents in America, it has to be either of these professions, and there's a reason for it, because lawyers, of course, you have an understanding of American law,
and
you should be able to bring out policies and to be able to defend it. For business magnates, you've started up an organization, a business from scratch, and it shows a lot of expertise in order for you to grow such a business. But you look at Nigeria, anybody can just wake up and say, okay, I want to be the president of Nigeria. It shouldn't be so. You look at the British Parliament, you see Boris Johnson under attacks from the opposition leader, that's Kenny Badnock. You have to come out. You don't just bring up policies like the president brought up fuel subsidies, taxation, and all that. Every policy he's been bringing up is just causing more hardship to Nigerians. And if you tell him to come out and defend, this is a person that was not there when they were doing his primaries. So what does it really tell you about the government? We have people that they just bring up policies that will just enrich them and themselves without punishment. Nobody, if the policy fails, there's no punishment, there's nothing going on, and they will come out and they win elections, even when it doesn't seem like they actually won. I don't understand how APC won here in Bayo. It was PDP that won. I really don't understand where all the polling units I was getting results, at least the ones I witnessed, it was Labour Party.
Labour Party
and
that was headed.
The second was actually APC. I don't know where PDP just came.
It's a PDP. It was a PDP state.
It does show that these elections are already being scripted. They already know who is going to win, and that's not democracy. And like I said, I'm going to stick to that statement. If your system, your computer isn't working, if there's virus, you have to reboot it. And I really don't. It's going to be unfortunate I'm saying this, but at least for the coup plotters, of course, because it failed, they have to be prosecuted for it.
Because it's failed. So yeah, a whole lot of story. Do well to keep yourself informed with details of these stories. All right, so the business day. Let's check out headlines on the business day. Investors book 5.51 trillion naira in record weekly gain. Okay. Kudos to the investors. All right, so at this juncture, let's Glad anchor the newspaper review because we are moving to the world of sports.
Well, the story is making the headline in the sporting world for Osimhen. He nails Fenerbahce in derby win for Osimhen. You remember we talked about him being injured. He came back and made it in time for the derby, and he was on the score sheet. He did. That's why he did nail Fenerbahce in that derby win.
For Osimhen, are you going to? Is it just about the passion for the game, or is it the money?
No,
is it the financial?
I think it has to be. You cannot rule out one. He has a passion for it, of course, but he wouldn't be doing it if he's not really getting paid for it, But he could have.
So the money first, and then passion follows.
I think for most Nigerian, because most Nigerian footballers, you have to say the money first. There's a lot of athletes that are playing maybe in England that are locals. A lot of them turn down big money offers just to stay with their boyhood clubs. I think I can mention Steven Gerrard as one example, But for Osimhen, he's still very passionate because he could have still feigned injury. Well, I'm injured, let me stay out. But he wanted to come in time for the derby.
Passion, so money, your face is hurt. You did not end there, and now the arm. So yeah.
Yeah, and in tennis for golf, she beats Christea despite stomach virus. That's an important win for golf because she's been going through one setback or the other in the sporting world and in tennis for a long time. This season hasn't really been kind for her. Since she won the Roland Garros, she has just found it really hard to compete. So good win for her, but there's still a long way to go for her in the Madrid Open. And for Enzo Maresca, he heads Chelsea into FA Cup final against City. Chelsea FC, they did let go of their coach Enzo Maresca, and then I think it's Callum McFarlane, their assistant manager, that's currently the manager on an interim basis for Chelsea. I did not fancy them to get that win against Fulham, but they will be facing Man City in the FA Cup final. So big one for Chelsea. While for Mbappe, he gives France another scare. You have to read through to understand what that stuff is really talking about. For Spurs, they want to hijack £300,000 a week. Rashford, I don't know if he's going to be the most exciting signing at this point, but he was on the score sheet for Barcelona in their last game over the Spanish La Liga. And for Arteta, he gives updates on Havertz and Eze injuries. For Arsenal fans, you want to read that to understand when they will be coming back from that injury. But let's quickly move on and conclude with the other newspaper we have here. That's the Punch Sports Extra, where there's some interesting stories making the round. Of course, there's always something to talk about in the world of sports. From the Punch Sports Extra, of course, there's a story about Victor Osimhen as well, as he powers Gala past Fenerbahce as Oyinka wins championship. For Oyinka, he does play for Coventry City. That's Frank Lampard's side. They won the championship and they've secured promotion to the English Premier League next season.
Wow.
And there's a few stories there. There's one about Falconers as they land in Ikene ahead of Malawi clash. So for the Super Falcons, they will be facing Malawi, and that game will be played, I believe, at the Remo Star Stadium in Ikene. So the Super Falcons, they've actually arrived at Ikene for that game. And for Okoye, I scouted Okoye for Eagles, says Agali. That's an interesting statement. For Taylor, he celebrates 100th Leverkusen appearance. There's a story there about Kylian Mbappe, where Los Blancos sweat over Mbappe's fitness, because Mbappe is currently having a knock at this point, and there's a little bit of fears if he will be able to make it before the end of the season. There's some interesting stories. There's still the one about Chelsea winning the semi-final encounter over Leeds United, as they will be facing City as well. And there's Hendrik news about Hendrick, where Arsenal on alert for Hendrick. So these are, I think, the major stories we can talk about from the sporting world.
Yeah, there's always a whole lot of things going on in the world of sports. Quite an interesting one. Thank you very much, Glad, for that very interesting analysis. All right, so it's time to close the curtains. That concludes newspaper review. Don't forget to stay glued to Niger Live TV as we keep you updated, entertained and informed. Do stay with us as we will be bringing you more updates during Globe in View. Thank you for watching. My name is Barbie Mkparu and I've been joined by
Glad, Yakie, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you for watching.